The sun woke me up today, lightly shining on my forehead, dancing on the contours of my face. Before, this would have bothered me, but today, after surviving Irma, I welcomed it as a reminder from God that He was still on our side. Irma's strike was relentless, merciless, and unforgiving. I will never forget her. Hi, I'm Angela Burnett, author of the Irma Diaries, a collection of 25 compelling survivor stories designed to help the world personally connect to climate change and resolve to take action. I'm also the Virgin Islands Climate Change Officer, and today I want to share just a glimpse of our Irma experience and some important adaptation lessons learned. Hurricane Irma made a direct hit on the Virgin Islands on 6 September 2017, packing maximum sustained winds of 185 miles per hour with regular gusts of over 200 miles per hour. Irma set the record as the strongest hurricane ever at time of landfall in Atlantic history. Can you imagine the experience? The feeling was equivalent to the worst possible turbulence on an airplane. Our mortality confronted us head-on. There were so many easy opportunities for Irma to take us out. The possibility was so immediate and distinct that we all said goodbye to each other right there in that shower. I remember standing in fear that the wall would fall in and crush us. I looked across at Chelsea and she was shaking like a leaf. Somehow, she said, I managed to appear calm. I think she described best how we all felt in that moment. That level of fear is equivalent to being held at gunpoint. I was paralyzed with fear. I can swim, but couldn't in that moment. Panicked, hysterical, crying and screaming, Tico grabbed me and tried to calm me down with his assuring words. Listen, we are in this together. We are going to make it through. We are going to do it together, or we are going to die together. Do what I say. I don't want to lose you. What does a Category 5 do to a small island? Catastrophic damage. We are all familiar with the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. It predicts that both a Category 4 and Category 5 hurricane will result in catastrophic damage. Having survived a strong Category 4 impact by Hurricane Hugo in 1989, and coming out of that with relatively minimal damage, and experiencing Irma, a strong Category 5 in 2017, the Virgin Islands can safely tell the world that in reality, there is absolutely no linearity between a Category 4 and a Category 5 hurricane strike. Nancy Woodfield Pascoe will tell you that it's very hard to conceptualize in reality what catastrophic damage really means until it actually happens to you. The impact at the country level was nothing short of catastrophic. Over 95% of government offices in our central administration complex were completely destroyed. The National Emergency Operating Center itself was destroyed during the first half of the storm. This forced government to relocate and to operate makeshift. The Virgin Islands lived under curfew from 7th September 2017 to almost Christmas as a result of real security concerns. Irma threatened to bring our economy to its knees instantly. The level of economic impact to our tourism sector alone was estimated at 2.5 times our 2015 GDP. The impact to our critical infrastructure was severe. The Virgin Islands was in complete blackout for 5 days post-Irma as there was absolutely no electricity generation. With 90 to 95% of the electricity distribution network destroyed, it took well over 6 months for all communities to be restored with electricity. There was also serious problems in delivering potable water, leaving many communities without running water for months. We experienced severe damage to our road systems, in particular to our coastal roads, many of which completely washed out. Critical facilities along our coastline were also severely impacted, including our port facilities, which provide important gateways to the Virgin Islands. Of our schools, a third were declared to be unusable given the level of impact. 40% of our clinics received major damage. At least a third of homes experienced major damage, 14% of these being entirely destroyed. Our environment was not spared in the least. The Virgin Islands went from green hillsides to brown hillsides in a matter of hours. These are actual satellite images taken before and after Hurricane Irma. The damage extended to our coastal systems, with most of our beach vegetation being ripped out and our mangrove systems being destroyed. What's the outlook for the future? Not pretty. The IPCC predicts that as a result of climate change, we will experience stronger hurricanes more frequently. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Lorenz Center has actually estimated the probability of encountering a hurricane of Hurricane Irma's magnitude or greater. In 1990, the probability was just 1 in 800 in any particular year. By 2017, that probability had increased to 1 in 180. And by 2090, barring any measures to further curtail greenhouse gas emissions, the probability will increase to 1 in 60 in any given year. We have learned some very important adaptation lessons from Irma that will be critical to surviving in this future. We experienced firsthand the major challenges that come along in a catastrophic impact scenario, including limited to no communication, major transportation hurdles, lack of basic services like electricity and running water, a major debris crisis, and the logistical challenges of receiving and distributing relief. As the author of the Irma Diaries interviewing survivors, I learned a very interesting fact. Information about the storm is only a small factor in what drives decision making. We were all exposed to the same information, to the same facts, but there was very different reception, interpretation, and reaction to those facts, which led to very different preparation decisions. In fact, preparation decisions were mainly driven by people's personal belief systems and their personal circumstances at the time. As a country, we've learned that climate change requires preparing for the unprecedented, and that continuity plans must imagine the unimaginable. If I had sat in a planning meeting in the months leading up to Irma and suggested that we prepare for the scenario outlined on the screen, which is what we experienced in reality, people would have looked at me as if I were crazy. But this is a level of unprecedented impact that our future holds, and this is what we must be prepared for. I want to emphasize that the work of recovery must simultaneously be the work of resilience building, or else we are not adapting. This, however, requires us to take a blue skies planning approach. This means planning for the change that we want to see before the disaster. Disasters provide the perfect opportunity for us to adapt, for us to change, but they are also the most difficult time for us to implement change. Hurricane Irma, for example, provided the perfect opportunity for us to switch to renewable energy through rooftop solar. We had already lost 90 to 95% of our electricity distribution system. Irma also provided the perfect opportunity for coastal retreat, in particular along coastlines where most of our tourism infrastructure had already been severely damaged. And Irma provided the perfect opportunity for us to enhance our building code and other regulatory frameworks. Unfortunately, these adaptations have not occurred. The disaster recovery period is no time for planning detailed implementation of such strategies. By nature, the path to recovery will take the path of least resistance, which is the fastest, cheapest, and easiest. And this path doesn't always align with the path to adaptation. I want to close by providing a concrete example from Hurricane Irma of how a combination of natural defenses as well as engineered solutions are important for protecting small island coastlines. Anegada is our only coralline island. It is as flat as a pancake. That island was warned to evacuate for fear that the 25-foot storm surge that accompanied Irma would literally wash over the island and kill the inhabitants. To everyone's surprise, Anegada fared best during Irma. It was not washed over as predicted. Why? Anegada has the horseshoe reef, which is a barrier reef that spreads across almost the entire coastline of Anegada, and that reef served to protect Anegada from even such a severe storm surge. Nature at its best. On the island of Tortola, we had recently replaced a failing seawall with a properly engineered and installed rock revetment that does a much better job at absorbing storm surge. That system was designed to withstand a Category 4 hurricane impact, and I'm very pleased to say that it withstood the storm surge associated with a Category 5 with very minimal damage. Hurricane Irma is a very clear warning of the need for us to adapt to the future that we anticipate with climate change. I'm happy to share more examples from our Hurricane Irma experience with you. Please contact me at the details provided here.